Hey, what's up? This is Carl Joshua Ncube, and you're watching CreaTV. Did I do it right?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Is it going to be fine? I'm going to edit out what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah.
Like add the other stuff. Even though, like, is that cool?
We can do another
Okay,
one.
okay, cool.
Carl Joshua Ncube.
Yes.
Hi.
Tiny little nigga, Ty. How are you doing?
I want that.
Yeah. Can people see you? Can people
they
see
can't.
you on screen? Yes, I'm speaking to Tiny little nigga, Ty.
Okay.
Yes.
Carl, I'm going to ask you the typical question.
Yes.
Who is Carl Joshua
Who is?
Ncube?
Yes, I was waiting for that. I've been dying
Yes.
to tell people my identity. Okay, so I'm a second generation comedian.
Yes.
So my dad was a comedian, and then he died, and then I stole his jokes, and then I started my career, and then so now I'm a comedian, but I'm a creative, and I do all sorts of other things to pay the bills, like writing and cooking and giving people advice and maybe opening my own church at some point. I'm not sure.
Hallelujah.
No,
Carl, you're doing a lot of things.
Right.
How important is creativity in everything that you're doing?
I mean, it's everything. I think I look at my life and I look at the things that I do as service to, say, my fans, for example. And I think when I cook at home, should I not be sharing that with them as well?
Yeah.
When when my wife and I are traveling around the world, should we not also be sharing that? Like everything, I believe everything is there to be shared. Not everything. But there's some things that are private. But I believe everything is in my creative scope and it's there for people to enjoy. And I want to inspire and change people.
Which one gig for you stands out and why?
Which one gig would it be? The one gig would be Abuja, when in Nigeria, where I go onto stage. Everyone has seen me perform in Lagos, and they thought I was the new best thing to come out, and so they put me as one of the main acts in Abuja. And I went on stage, and nobody laughed for 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I felt like I wanted to die because I was dying on stage, literally. And yeah, worst moment ever, but best moment in terms of never take your audience for granted. You're never too big for a group of people that have come to watch you. I think it gave me a lot more respect for the craft. And I started working a lot more. And I'm not saying that it hasn't happened, or it doesn't happen since, but it's because I'm that afraid of taking an audience for granted again that Abuja sticks out in my head all the time. It's like the worst gig, but also the best gig in my career.
You travel a lot with your job. How important is exposure, and how do you feel that has impacted on your craft?
I'll give an example of when I was growing up, I used to sell freezers in Maputo, and one of the things I used to get upset about it, like because every time I'd sell a box of freezers, right, I would go back to Jaggers and buy 4 boxes. And I'd come back to my grandmother and say, but I only have $5 left. And my grandmother would say, yeah, but you bought 4 boxes. So every other kid who was selling freezers in Maputo would buy 1 box and would spend the rest of their profit. Traveling is kind of like that. So every time I travel, I open up new markets. So I buy new boxes. So it's new territories where I can perform at. So rather than, let's say, if I'm a local comic and I keep doing shows and just spending the money and not traveling, all I'm doing is I'm always just going to be that 1 box comedian. Whereas traveling is very important because it opens up new markets. So if it's 5 new fans in Europe every year, that's a good thing, because at a later point in my career, that's going to be very important. Those boxes that I was buying all over the place, all of that profit, like it's reinvested. That's all it is. And it's absolutely important because it shows me that my comedy works in different settings. It's important that I know this because performing locally can be a crutch. You end up just speaking in your language and then people don't get you. And I want the world to understand who I am.
So what sort of dreams did you have when you were growing up?
Wow, I wanted to be famous, but I didn't know for what. Like I used to do the usual singing along to Kids Incorporated, making your own microphones and guitars. My dad was a woodwork teacher, so I knew how to make a guitar. I really wanted to sing. In fact, I started singing in church, and then I started preaching more and finding out that there was more popularity in the spoken word than there was in singing, for example, because I could articulate certain thoughts. Like in singing, sometimes you can sing a chorus and you're limited to what's in the scope of that course. But speaking, you can change the topic as often as you want and change the perspective as often as you want. Whereas I found singing a little limited for me in that scope. So comedy was a really good outlet. But I procrastinated on it for 5 years until you came along, and then I did it. But I procrastinated so much. I've forgotten the question.
What dreams you had?
yeah, but I just wanted to be famous. I just wanted to be famous. I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to be the best at it and just be, just be awesome and have lots of people know about it. That's all I wanted. Yeah.
So I want to share a quote with you by a famous guy called Carl Joshua Ncube.
Right.
He says that if there is a gatekeeper, I want to be a gatecrasher.
Right.
Tell me about that.
Right. One of the things that I hate is when people think that they control your destiny, and I think that's the worst thing in our craft, is that people think they can make you or break you. And I think it's very important for an artist to know that you do have the power to have your own fan base, to have your own influence, to have your own success. And so my career has been riddled by people there's people who have enabled me, and there's people who've stifled me. The one thing that I've learned about people who've enabled me are people who've given me wings. They never wanted to tie me down to anything, but the people who stifled me were people pretending that they were the gatekeepers, and it was only through them and then they always want to tie me down. And so for me, my career has always been associated with, everyone knows that when Carl gets into a new industry, I'm there to just rip shreds, I'm there to disrupt, and that's because I don't care about the system, I don't care about who's there and what rules are there. If I feel that this is the way we can do it, that's the way we're going to do it. We'll fail and then we'll figure it out, but I don't care for gatekeepers much.
Okay, so what's up for 2017?
2017.
Yes.
2017 is a new year, new thinking, always. So my wife and I have decided we are going to travel around the world as creative nomads. So I don't know how we're going to do it, but pretty much perform anywhere we can, design, cook, write, film, whatever it is that it takes. We want to see if we can travel around the world for a year and then come back home. If we travel longer, it's great, but we don't want to have an address until we know what kind of a house or country we want to live in. We don't know. So we want to experience everything and have influence. So you might find that when we eventually settle down and buy a house, it might be a weird looking Asian, Australian kind of cave or tent. I don't know. But I think right now we haven't had the opportunity to know what we want out of life. And so therefore we're going out to find ourselves. We never had a gap year outside after school. Our gap year was going to Musha or whatever it is, I don't know. But now we've got the opportunity to actually travel around the world and also learn more about each other as a couple. We don't know if our relationship works better in Zimbabwe or it works better in China. Like maybe our relationship is better in the USA. Maybe things are sexier in France. I don't know. I want to test these things out.
Nice. So any last words for our creative family?
Yeah, to the youth out there, I just want to say to the youth, I think 2017 is about breaking rules. I think we've accepted too many rules. We've accepted that cash makes the world go around. Zimbabwe has taught us that that's not the case. We've been told that exchange rates matter. Zimbabwe has taught us that is not the case. We have learned that. We have also learned that the internet is probably the best form of marketing, or we can get friends from any other place in the world. I think question everything. I think this is one of the things that people need to understand. Question everything. Question why you need to go to work. Why do you have to wake up in the morning? Why do you have to work from 8 until 5? Is there no other way of doing it? And I think once you start exploring that, you start living, because you start realizing certain things that are holding you back because it's something that's in your head and you just can't shake it. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But that night when we had been chased by elephant, I just came back into the bedroom. I'm just going to circle this. Like a bull and elephant that is in mast. That's what they call it. And I remember saying, as soon as I get home, I'm going to take out this frustration.
Then
on
we
my
got
wife.
back. Then we got back.
Then I go back and then
then
there was another
elephant.
No,
I was like,
I was so scared. I was like, I'm gonna walk around the bed like an elephant bull. I'm just gonna look at you. I was like, and then you saw that the elephant. I was like,